Hi, welcome to Mentor Studio, and today we have Hemanth, who has his own organization in web design. Welcome, Hemanth.
Thank you. Thanks, Joe.
So, Hemanth, just to know a little bit more about your journey in your career till today, right from your schooling, what was your passion and how did that translate into what you're today?
So the domain that I work in today was defined right in my childhood. My father is into art and photography, archaeology, and dramatics and sculpting and all that. So he's more of a creative guy. My mom was into music and all that. So there was a creative environment right from my childhood, right from the time I was born. I learned music. I learned drawing, painting, sketching. There was more focus on extracurriculars in my family. We were into fancy dress competition in school, which was like there was no way anyone else could get a prize.
The whole family is creative.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The focus was completely into these kind of things. We enjoyed extracurricular activities.
Got it.
So my parents never really forced me to study first and then look at the other things. So everything was equal.
Got it.
So we spent a lot of time drawing, sketching, doing a lot of craft work, singing, learning music, playing the harmonium, and a lot of such things. So the mind was totally into doing creative stuff.
Got it.
Creating music or creating crafts or doing art or producing something creative. With that mindset, sometime during the early 90s, my father was curious, and I was born and brought up in Mysore.
Okay.
So he was very much interested into computers. Back then, it was very rare to have a personal computer at home, unlike today. So he somehow got hold of a very old PC, and that was running DOS, disk operating system. And it had no user interface, so to speak. And the first time we brought computer home, I was very curious. It was like a new toy. So I didn't see it from a very serious standpoint, but it was a curiosity creator for me.
True.
And I saw it as some sort of a new toy which does some amazing stuff. And I asked my elder brother, what does this do? What is the use of this? He said, you ask any question, it's going to answer.
Okay.
And there was an A prompt, DOS prompt that was there. And there was a keyboard. I typed 55 plus 25 or some random number, and it's not doing anything. So he said, maybe you should press enter. I pressed enter and it said bad command or file name.
Okay.
So I didn't know the stuff, but I was very, very curious. So I think the whole journey started from something like that. Slowly we got introduced to user interface, where we moved from DOS to Windows. There was Windows 3, Windows 3.1 and so on, Windows 95, 98. And so late into 90s, I had become very serious about computers.
Okay.
Because I used to spend time every day. It's the PC at home. None of my friends had PCs. They were all into regular upbringing, while I was into this very abnormal time that I spent in front of the computer. I used to sit for 6-8 hours a day, even when I was a schoolboy.
Okay.
I used to get up at 3 a.m., 4 a.m. without telling my parents. And then I used to spend a lot of time in front of that learning. We had this famous magazine called PC Quest,
yes,
which came with a CD, free CD with every issue of every month. So that used to have a lot of demoware, shareware, freeware and all that.
True.
So I used to learn a lot of programming languages, play a lot of games that were demoware, of course. So a lot of creative stuff, game builders and software creations and web design, a lot of such things I used to learn. So I got exposed to 3D Studio, Photoshop, what we used to have from a company called Macromedia, which I later ended up working at.
Some Flash or something?
Before Flash, there was a software called Director.
Okay.
So that had this concept of timeline, where you can define an animation, what happens at every frame, and you can create a 2D animation, so to speak. So all those were fascinating to me. So that's how my exposure and interest towards the field of design really got ignited, I should say.
Okay.
It was a very fostering environment I was in my childhood.
Got it. So when did this transition into some sort of a career path, or when did you start thinking about it as maybe I will look at monetizing the skill set?
See, I was not too good at studies, but I was too good at the subject that I really loved.
Okay.
So there were some subjects like math I really didn't love, and I was not good at it. But there were subjects like drawing, art, and all these things that I was good at, which I really loved. And I was not good at English speaking. So even though my education was pretty good, but I hadn't had the exposure of speaking to people in English on a regular basis. We were from Mysore, a small city, speaking at home in Kannada all the time. So there was no scope of exposure.
Understood.
My father used to have a lot of connections with a lot of foreigners in his job because he was an archaeologist and he used to have a lot of connections.
Wow.
A few foreigners expressed interest in learning Photoshop.
Okay.
And I was in 8th or 9th grade back then, 97, 98, 99.
Got it.
And he started bringing them home and he was very proud of the fact that I knew Photoshop. And he told me to teach them.
Okay.
So I was a small boy of 8th, 9th grade teaching these big foreigners who knew nothing of Kannada. I knew very little of English. With my broken English, I started teaching them Photoshop. They really loved it.
8th, 9th means what? 14 years?
Yeah, 14 years. 14 years.
Yeah.
So I started teaching them. They enjoyed it. They learned it. Like the practical results were there, right, when we saw them learning. So that is my first exposure to catering to somebody else.
Got it.
It was professional catering, though I didn't charge a fees or anything.
It's like mentoring them in terms of...
it was a first exposure. And I love teaching people because my dad is very talkative.
Okay.
And he used to conduct photography classes. I've seen him teach people.
Nice.
And I think genetically also we are more inclined towards talking and teaching. So I get a lot of satisfaction teaching people. Hence, I also run a YouTube channel with talking a lot about designs and stuff like that.
What's the name of your YouTube channel?
At the moment, it's just Hemanth Sharma Design.
Hemanth Sharma Design.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I talk a lot about design there. I also run a podcast. I invite industry leaders from design field.
And what's the name of the podcast?
Design Talks with Hemanth.
Design Talks with Hemanth. Great.
So I have this passion to teach. So I ended up enjoying teaching those people. And that was my first interaction with somebody who's not family.
Got it.
Where I really exchanged something professional.
Okay.
And then during those days, I think one of the software companies in Mysore, the HR head or someone was in touch with my dad for some other work, and he had visited us and he saw a small boy sitting and working on Photoshop and all that. So he was kind of happy to see a site like that. 3-4 years down the line, when I was almost wrapping up my 10+3 and the exams were 2-3 months away, I got my of course we didn't have mobiles at that time. My landline got a call from that software company. It's called Excel Soft in Mysore. Yeah. And he called and said, we talked to my mom, I think. And he said, I remember your son is into computers. And my mom thought it's my elder brother because he was looking for jobs at that point. True. He was in his early 20s.
How elder is he to you?
4 years.
4 years.
I was about 17 and a half and he was 21, 22-ish. So he was looking for a job in the graphic design, web design space. And they were looking for somebody like that. So my mom kind of connected the two and then she thought it's him they're talking about. She sent him. He went for the interview and he said, I also saw somebody else who was a small boy working on Photoshop and whatever. And he said, yeah, it's my little brother. So get him also. So my brother asked me to go and I also went, prepared a 7-page long resume, which I recommend against in my videos today. Okay. So back then I was a kid. So I went with a resume. They were kind enough, gave me some nice tests. And
today it's all LinkedIn instead of a resume, maybe something like that.
Yeah. So I did that test. I think it took half a day or so. They were happy. They knew I knew stuff. And more than knowing stuff, I think I knew where to find the answers.
Got it.
And grow. And I was curious. I wanted to learn. I think some of these things were more important. And I had it and they were happy to hire me and my brother both.
So this was when your first stint was when you were
17 and a half. Like I had 2 months to go for the exam. I told them, thank you for selecting me. I can only join after my exams.
Got it.
And they waited for 2-3 months. I finished my exams and then joined. I didn't even wait for the results.
Nice. May I know what was your salary at that time when you started?
I think I got somewhere around 1,800 rupees per month take home.
And how many assignments you used to do for them? It was a daily.
It was a full time. Go in the morning, come in the evening, kind of.
Do you think that set the foundation for a lot of what you know today? In terms
Absolutely. Because see, that time I think the mindset in general of the crowd, whoever was going for work professionally, was not the mindset that the Gen Z has today. It was totally different.
Correct.
We went there, we enjoyed work. We didn't think about salary. We didn't think about the time we spent. We spent 3 days and nights continuously.
Just to deliver on the project and to learn everything.
Yes. So the CEO is waiting. He has a proposal to submit. We need to create that proposal. We have to design.
So we have to deliver on it, no matter what.
Yeah. We sat in the office, slept in the office 2-3 days.
That's more of an entrepreneurial spirit, that we deliver what is required.
Correct. Only difference I see is that we were not deciding what needs to go. We were told what to be done and we were doing those things. So we were the execution guys. So that's how my journey into this started. Yeah.
So Hemanth, moving on now, let's talk a little bit about your professional journey. So we know that you started quite early, 17, 18 years of age.
Yeah.
And today you're an entrepreneur, you're a founder of a company.
Yeah.
So I would like to know more about your journey from your first assignment towards your entering the entrepreneurship, and what are the different sort of milestones you might have crossed, and what are the different, what sort of talent you would have picked up on the way, the technical, solutions, and how the industry has advanced. It's been advancing at quite a rapid pace.
Yeah.
How do you keep abreast of it?
Yeah.
Right? Something on this.
So, I worked in Mysore for about 2 years as a graphic designer, web designer, animator, those kind of skills. So it was more of an executing job where I was told what to do. At some point, I saw an ad in the newspaper from a company called Macromedia.
Okay.
We used a software called Flash on a day-to-day basis in our job when I was in Mysore. And Macromedia was the creator of that software.
Got it.
So that's the company who created that software. So I saw that ad and they were looking for a quality engineer. Quality engineering is way different from what we did.
Got it.
So they test the softwares, they write automation, softwares to make sure the softwares are working fine. And there's nothing, this kind of creativity involved in that. So we saw that some of my colleagues who were all very old at that point, like I was the only 18-year-old in the company. And my colleagues were 28, 29-year-olds who kind of nudged me and said, why don't you apply? I said, no, I'm not interested. And I just threw the newspaper on the table and it fell down. I even remember that sight. Coincidentally, I got a call from Macromedia. One of the managers called me and said, would you like to explore the role? I said, I have no sense of quality engineering. But they said, no, this is not the typical software quality engineering. We want people who are experts in Flash. We want them to come and join us in the Flash team and help improve the software. So it was very coincidental and unexpected. I consider myself lucky for that. So then I prepared and went for the interview. There was some 5-6 rounds of solid interviews throughout the day. I finished all of them. It's a different story on how exciting the whole process was, but I got through and I got a job in Bangalore. So I started as a quality tester, quality engineer there. But then, like they had told, it was not a very standard quality testing work. There was a lot of usability work. I used to build a lot of games and apps and designs for different screen resolutions and all that. That gave me a lot of exposure in not just doing what I'm told, but to start thinking on my own as to what I can build, which could, break the software, which could come up with new ideas and workflows for the software so that I could tell the team and report that, I was trying to do something like this and doing it this way could make it easier. Can we explore that feature?
Yes.
It was the kind of inputs that people like us gave also that somewhere shaped the product. And that's one role that I got into initially. Later, I spent about 6 months into the job. Adobe acquired Macromedia. So I transitioned as an Adobe employee. So now I was at Adobe. Continued the same role, but then throughout the course of next 10 years, I spent at Adobe working in various product teams in various roles. I wrote a little bit of code. I designed a lot. I learned I was exposed and given a platform to practice my public speaking. Because as I said before, I love teaching and mentoring people. I got into this team called evangelism team.
Okay.
So there was a team that evangelized the Adobe products. The term comes from Christianity.
Got it.
So the objective was to spread the word that Adobe software could do this, and the other. So we had to teach people, train people, or let the world know, or the companies know that, what all could be done using the Adobe technology. And my job was very similar to that of a marketing guy or a sales guy. But I was not measured by how much revenue is going to come in, how many people are going to buy the software. Our job was to technically get involved with the
spread
clients.
Awareness and spread the
and technically learn the software before they are released.
Got it.
So 6 months before the software is released, we knew how the technology is going to work. And we get the privilege to stand on the stage, talk to thousands of people in the audience and tell this is what you do. This. So the big tech events today that you see where the people, they demo the cutting edge technology, something similar was done back then.
Got it.
So we enjoyed working in that. That was one of my most memorable time in my career.
Got it.
I learned a lot. There was a lot of interpersonal skills that I learned. I was no longer a simple graphic designer or somebody like that. It opened up a lot of things. I visited companies, conducted boot camps, workshops, boot camps in colleges. I interacted with a lot of students who were interested, aspiring designers. So I started mentoring them. We worked closely with a few companies and we built software for them. We built designs for them.
Okay.
One of the key milestones during this time was iPhone got launched.
Got it.
That was the first time we started seeing touchscreen phones and smartphones. Before that, we were into feature phones, the Nokia phones with keypads and all that. When the whole industry transitioned from feature phones to smartphones, we really started noticing a complete change in the way we think as designers.
True.
Because we no longer thought only as the print as the medium or only the web as the digital medium. We started seeing mobile, tablets, all these things as a medium. BlackBerry had launched a tablet called Playbook back then.
Yeah.
It was not very successful, but that was their attempt. iPad started coming in. So the industry was struggling to design a software or build a software that looked great on all these screens, because designing for big screen is equal to a lot of real estate. So it's partially easy to design. For a small screen, it took a little bit of effort to understand what needs to be showing on the screen, because you have very little space. You need to choose very well.
Yeah.
And then we started seeing diverse resolutions of the screen, the screen density and all that. So there were a lot of technical challenges that we had to go through. So I kind of became a multi-screen design expert at that point. We use the word multi-screen. Not a lot of people are familiar with it. It basically meant you can design for any screen size. So I spent a lot of time understanding, researching that particular domain. So that really helped me become a much mature designer who could, throw anything at me. I can design for any
device. Or
I could understand the intricacies of what happens in every screen size and how things resize between the screens.
Got it.
So that was one of my strong points, and I used to teach that to a lot of people. That was one of the second milestones. Then I quit Adobe. So I had a lot of roles that I changed. I think I changed 6 to 7 teams in like 10 years.
10 years.
Roles as well. And then I had seen a whole spectrum. This, I think, really helped me understand
like an ecosystem. Holistic.
Yeah. That is helping me today as an entrepreneur, because I know what QEs do, quality engineers do. I know what product developers do. I know what designers do. I know how managers
You understand from multiple perspectives, like from marketing, from quality, from design, functional as well as delivery and value. Right?
Yeah. Okay. So holistic thinking is something junior designers and mid-level designers struggle with even today. So that's one of the topics that I talk about sometimes.
Absolutely.
So they do what they're assigned and they don't understand how it affects the big picture. I think big picture thinking is something.
So delivery value to the client is much more important than everything else follows that. Like what is the client outlook or what is the customer's requirement?
Absolutely.
So
getting into the mindset of these people
Of the client
helped
and the
us
customer.
yeah,
Right.
take better
Understood.
design decisions. So yeah, I think that defined a lot of things for me. So I spent 10 years at Adobe, then about 8.5 years working at an ed tech. That's where I built a team from scratch.
Okay.
This was the other mindset which I acquired, which was hiring people, finding the right resource, understanding where to get people from, what to look for in a person when we hire.
Got it.
There are a lot of challenges that I went through, a lot of failed hires I did.
Higher sense.
We had to let go of a few people because it just didn't work out for
Work out
them
for
and
us.
us.
True.
So I started learning what it is to hire a wrong person and how it affects the morale of the entire team.
Entire team. True.
So those were very new to me. I was never open to that. I was into technical stuff. People management.
This is people management is another world altogether. True.
So that 8.5 years I spent, I really learned a lot from that perspective. I used to 60% manage projects and execution and technical stuff. 40% manage people and the schedules and the roles and things like that.
Okay.
So I think that gave a mixed balance.
Got it. So transitioning to your decision to become an entrepreneur, I think today you are a founder of a company. You're an entrepreneur. So what caused that decision?
I felt at one point I had a lot of experience working, and not in terms of number of years, but I think in a lot of domains that I spoke about.
Exposure to different areas of the industry.
I kind of felt I can handle things on my own.
Okay.
And I think with my family's support, we decided to start up last year. And so we started up, we started creating designs for companies on our own. Okay. So that's the second innings of my life, I can say.
Got it.
So the employment ended there and entrepreneurship started there.
Right.
Yeah.
So if I were to ask you, let's say, somebody who's looking at a similar entrepreneurship, what are the challenges that you faced? I know that you started, but I'm sure that you would have a more understanding about, from an employment, everything is little secure, a little time bound, but entrepreneurship is more where you have to make things happen, right? And you're constantly evolving. So let's say if you're talking to somebody, you're going to mentor somebody who's looking at entrepreneurship or the value of entrepreneurship in today's world, where there is a lot of instability, a lot of insecurity against employment, which is pretty much with the advent of AI looking a little, unpredictable.
Yeah.
Right? What would be your suggestion?
I think there are a lot of lessons I've learned, of course, but I can narrow down to one of the single most important thing that I've learned is adding value to your clients.
Okay.
So as an entrepreneur, your knowledge doesn't matter. Your costing doesn't matter. All those matters, but to a very limited extent. At the end of the day, any client you serve, any client you create work for, they look at what is the value you're adding to them.
Got it.
The moment you add value, I think the whole dynamics change because they'll be happy to pay you more money.
Yes.
They'll not doubt your skills or capabilities. So in a way, by adding value, you've covered the money part, you've covered the proof of having skill part.
True.
And you've also built a relationship, and they end up coming back to you for more work. I think that is one thing that I can think of at the moment, like ad hoc, and having the ability to add that value to a client requires a lot of preparation.
Right.
I think having spent all these years working in various things, learning a lot of things, a combination of project management, people management, failing in a lot of things, I think that helped me somewhat try and understand that now this is the focus. So in whatever we do today, we try to add value to the client. So we really try to understand what they want and tailor the work for that.
Got it. So if I make a statement that, the earlier you start, it's more of a trial and error of understanding and discovering yourself and discovering, what you're capable of and taking every step based on what value you bring today and looking at, okay, how can I add value to my... is that one of the mantras of success in entrepreneurship?
Yeah, I think what needs to be done at the end of the day. So if you are born today and you have to grow up to get maturity, you have to grow up. You have to spend those many years.
Right.
You can't get mature in 2 years.
Absolutely.
You need to see that young days, youth, teenage and all that, and then get into.
So evolve into
What
your
do it.
potential.
You have to
evolve into your potential.
Yeah, unless your family has a set up business and they give you a fixed role right from the day one of your education.
That's also
completion.
unpredictable in today's world.
That is true. That is true.
Okay.
There's a lot of competition, so
there's a lot of competition. Everything is changing.
Yeah.
So on a final note, let's say you are a mentor. You said that you like teaching, you like mentoring. What would you recommend for those who are just about to, to become an entrepreneur or looking for employment? How as a mentor in this particular space, what would be a sort of milestones that they would have to achieve to reach a level?
There are 2-3 things if I can talk about. One, I think the mindset of people learning a new skill when they are in their teens or early 20s is very much into learning a specific skill. In resume, you will see skills and they'll put software names.
Got it.
I don't like that. I never recommend that because a software is not a skill. A software is a tool.
Got it.
So I talk a lot about the difference between a skill and a tool.
Right.
Where I give an example of pencil. A pencil is a tool. So if I give you a pencil, there's no guarantee that you'll draw well.
True.
Knowing how to draw is a skill. So you need to learn to draw, irrespective of whether you're using a pencil or a pen or anything. So the medium or the software changes. It evolves. Today we are using AI.
Right.
AI is the tool today. 10 years before it was maybe a lot of manual work in Photoshop and Illustrator. Today also we use Photoshop and Illustrator, but along with AI. So the tool has progressed a lot, but the fundamental principles of how we design remains the same.
That's the same.
So I think people who are starting to learn today or who aspire to be in a particular role tomorrow, they need to focus more on the skill than the tool. People learn Figma, people learn Illustrator, Photoshop, and they say, I know how
all these are tools.
These are tools, dude. You don't know anything. To be honest, you need to learn. Don't touch the tool. Learn the fundamentals without touching the tool. That is one aspect of it. I think you need to also focus on spending little time with some structured course, so to speak. But I think getting mentorship from early on helps a lot from somebody who has learned things.
Sure.
I'll tell you in what sense. When you study something in college, you don't get to apply those things exactly the same way in your work.
Got it.
A lot of things changed from the time I studied to the time I started working. And when you start working in real life, there's a lot of unpredictability of what happens, the way clients respond to you, or the expectations of your managers. Everything changes, so they make you go back. They give you work in such a way that those works kind of challenge you. And you don't know how to achieve that. And it's all not going to be coming out of the books that you studied in college or any course for that matter. A lot of people do design courses today because they can't afford to go to big colleges for design. I think experiential learning is what I'm trying to get to.
Got it.
Learn from somebody who has experience working in the field, because for them, the tools have evolved, but the fundamental skills are the same. And what they've learned for all these years have really impacted them well. And that learning is something no college, no university, no online design school will teach you.
Except a mentor.
Yeah. So when you see that you can get a UX design certification for 200 rupees today, please don't join that.
True. Got it.
So that, I think, learning through experience of someone else is going to save you from making a lot of mistakes. It will prepare you well for a job or whatever you want to do.
Got it. Hemanth, it was a pleasure to understand your journey, and we wish you all the best in your entrepreneurial journey in your life.
Thank you, Joe.
And we look forward to collaborate as a mentor, as a guide to many who are aspiring to become entrepreneurs.
Thank you so much, Joe, for calling me and spending this time. I think I enjoyed talking about all these things I had not put together. So thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.